Moscow's streets look dimmer tonight than they have in decades. The power grid is starting to buckle. People want answers. They are searching for someone to blame, and the Kremlin is fighting to hold its story together. But that story is slipping out of control. I'm Andrew Collins. What you're about to hear is not guesswork. It is a documented breakdown of Russia's energy system, and it is driven by a weapon Vladimir Putin never expected. For weeks, Russian forces have hit Ukrainian cities non-stop. They used drone swarms and ballistic missiles. They struck hospitals, apartment blocks, and power infrastructure. They aimed to break morale and force surrender. Putin even unveiled his most feared weapon, the Oreshnik hypersonic missile. He believed it would crush Ukraine's resolve, but Kiev did not fold. Ukraine answered with something more disruptive, a home-built cruise missile called Flamingo. Then came one coordinated strike. It severed energy arteries that feed Moscow itself. Before we go deeper, I need you to act. If you value independent analysis, support this channel. If you want truth behind headlines, subscribe right now. You're watching Andrew Collins. Tap like, share your opinion in the comments, and share this with anyone who needs unfiltered reality. This is not entertainment. This is a record of a turning point in modern warfare. Now, let's continue. Hundreds of thousands of Russians woke to freezing homes. No electricity, no heat. The center of this disaster is the city of Ural. The Ural combined heat and power plant was hit directly. It is one of the region's largest energy hubs. In seconds, everything went dark. 225,000 civilians faced life-threatening cold. Video from the strike shows a huge fireball at the plant. That blast was not accidental. It was targeted. The warhead seems aimed at the turbine hull or at the high-pressure steam lines. Those are the vital organs of a thermal power station. A clean hit there does more than disable one unit. It triggers a domino effect across the system. Pressure shifts ripple through the network. Automatic safety systems kick in. Then the grid drops into shutdown. This is not simple damage. It is decapitation. So what is Flamingo exactly? It is not just a drone. It is a low-cost cruise missile. Its estimated range is around 800 kilometers. A small turbojet engine powers the missile. It flies about 450 to 500 kilometers per hour. Unlike propeller drones, Flamingo closes fast at the end. That turns engagement into a matter of seconds. Its airframe uses composite materials. They are designed to absorb radar energy. That sharply reduces its radar cross-section. Put simply, many air defense radars barely see it. And this raises the hardest question. Where was Russian air defense when this happened? Ural sits on a vital corridor toward Moscow. It should have layered radars and interceptors. Yet Flamingo slipped through that shield untouched. So why did it happen? Russia built air defense for high-altitude ballistic threats and for fast fighter jets, not for low-flying, radar-evading cruise missiles, not for strikes on single high-value nodes. Flamingo exploits gaps in radar coverage. It stays low, moves fast, and hits before response. Right after the strike, Governor Andrei Klitschko went on state media. He tried to downplay the crisis, but his own words exposed the truth. He acknowledged power cuts in the Northern District. He also cited outages in the railway district. He confirmed that key infrastructure was hit. That was not confidence. It was an admission of failure. In that moment, the Kremlin's message fell apart. Everything is under control, collapsed on live television. But this was not the first time Ural was brought down. Ukrainian missiles have hit it before, and it happened again. On the night of November 13th, Ukraine launched its biggest attack. It was the largest strike so far on Russian territory. Ukraine's general staff publicly confirmed the operation afterward. This was not a messy wave of improvised drones. It marked the first official combat use of new cruise missiles. Flamingo and Bars, both built domestically in Ukraine. These systems force Russia to rethink the war at home. They change how the battlefield works inside Russian territory. Dozens of high-value targets were hit at the same time. Across occupied Crimea and occupied Zaporizhzhia, strikes landed together. Command posts were hit hard, disrupting control and coordination. Huge fuel depots ignited, sending flames into the night. Airfields were disabled, grounding aircraft and slowing response. And amid it all, Ural's thermal power plant went down. Whole cities dropped into darkness within minutes after the impacts. Civilians panicked as heat and lights failed across districts. Russia's celebrated defenses looked powerless against this new threat. The S-400 and Pantsir systems appeared useless that night. During the attack, Governor Andrei Klitschko gave no shelter instructions because there were simply no shelters available. He told residents to hide in hallways and bathrooms, even inside their own closets at home. That is not dark humor at all. It is the real outcome of Putin's 25-year promise of strength. On one side, Russia's officials looked helpless. On the other, the regime reached for threats. Chief propagandist Vladimir Solovyov went on air. He tried to cover humiliation with escalation. He talked about Poseidon nuclear torpedoes and other doomsday rhetoric meant to scare everyone. But when a state cannot stop conventional strikes on its territory, intimidation starts to lose its grip, especially on Kyiv, which has already endured so much. For decades, Putin built strategy on one core belief: Russia's interior was untouchable. Even if the front bled, he felt the heartland was safe. Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the Ural industrial belt. That assumption died on November 13th. In a major disclosure, Ukraine's general staff outlined new capabilities: Flamingo, Bars, and Lyuty, all homegrown systems. And Putin's favorite talking point collapsed with that. The war ends when Western aid stops. Flamingo's range is described as 3,000 kilometers. That is not a footnote. It means bases, bunkers, and logistics hubs can be reached, far beyond Moscow, St. Petersburg, and the Urals. Putin tried to keep the war inside Ukrainian cities. Now the fire has reached his doorstep. These missiles were not built only to explode on contact. Some versions reportedly carry bunker-busting warheads. They may penetrate up to 10 meters of concrete. So why does that matter? Because the November 13th target list shows intent. It suggests planning, not chaos. This did not look like terrorism. It looked like a surgical decapitation effort. It aimed at the people and systems driving the war: generals, oligarchs, and warlords. And it sent a direct signal to Moscow. The rules of this war have shifted. The fight is no longer sealed inside Ukraine. No location is truly secure anymore. And this may only be the opening phase. He said serial production starts in January and February 2026. What Russia felt was only a preview. Until recently, Moscow expected only slow, visible strikes. Old drones and modified short-range weapons were easier to track. On November 13th, defenses faced low, fast cruise missiles. They were far harder to detect on radar. The result was an operational failure. Fragments and debris fell into residential areas in Ural. They landed in parking lots, courtyards, and apartment spaces. That suggests air defense engaged too late to matter, possibly only seconds before impact, or even after impact. The Telegram channel Supernova Plus called the debris Flamingo. Instead of shielding civilians, defenses scattered burning wreckage onto them. So why was Ural such a consequential target? New images show a gaping breach in the main structure. Flames swallowed the site and spread through the plant. This did not only cut electricity for civilians, it also disrupted power feeding nearby defense production facilities. One example is Ural Techmash, a key manufacturing complex. But the biggest ripple points toward a Shahed launch base nearby. Ural hosts an installation used to launch Shahed drones at Ukraine. Intelligence reporting suggests 8 ground launch pads at that site. By sending Flamingo to Ural, Ukraine hit the launch chain. It targeted the source of drone attacks on Ukrainian cities, a mirror response that turned Putin's energy war back inward. On November 12th to 13th, Putin launched massive strikes. He sent 138 drones and 1 Iskander missile. Ukraine answered with synchronized hits on command and logistics nodes. It also struck launch sites used for terror attacks. Russian generals stalled and struggled to counter the layered assault. Ukraine is now targeting Russia's military and energy backbone. Systems like Flamingo are pushing a wobbling state even harder. Putin's Russia is weakening at the front and inside. The rot is military, economic, and social at once. Here are the clearest indicators of that internal strain. Around 500 million barrels of oil are stranded at sea. Ukrainian drone strikes hit sites like Orsk and Slavyansk. Some hits were so hard that refining capacity is crippled. Bloomberg reported Russia raised crude exports, yet buyers vanished. So roughly 500 million barrels sit in offshore tankers. Sanctions and missing customers keep that cargo stuck and idle. That is a blunt sign of war revenue being choked. Another pressure point is Moscow's air cover and interceptors. Interceptor aircraft need high-octane fuel to stay on patrol. Ukraine has worked to sever that supply line step by step. Remember Christmas Eve and the strike pattern that night. Storm Shadow missiles and drones hit Rostov, Volgograd, and Krasnodar. Refineries in Rostov and Volgograd feed fuel for fighters. They also support generators tied to air defense operations. Ukraine's logic was simple. Burn refineries, starve the jets. It is methodical strangulation, tightening a ring around Moscow. To see how, look upward at the flight profile. This was not random damage, but a precise ghost mission. Reports and tracking data pointed to Storm Shadow use. Storm Shadow is air-launched, not fired from the ground. That implies Su-24M aircraft released it. They flew deep enough, then returned without being caught. That is an ugly scenario for Russian aerospace defenses. Technically, Storm Shadow stays low after launch. It uses terrain following, often 30 to 40 meters high. S-300 and S-400 scan higher altitudes, so the threat can slide under radar horizons. Reports of more than 12 blasts in Rostov suggest failure. Russia's layered doctrine broke, and billion-dollar systems delivered little. That night, the defense myth met British-French engineering. And it met Ukrainian execution, timed and coordinated. The warhead matters because it is built for penetration. Storm Shadow carries about 450 kilograms of explosives. Its BROACH design works in two phases. First, a charge punches through outer protection, then the main blast detonates inside the target. Ukraine did not shoot blindly or waste expensive strikes. The aim was refinery heart components like distillation towers. Without towers, a refinery becomes storage, not production. Replacing towers can take months and sometimes years. The knock-on effect hits aviation and sortie rates. If fuel lines break, Russian Air Force flights should drop. If Novochakhtinsk is offline, air pressure over Ukraine decreases. Russian pilots sit grounded, waiting for fuel and orders. Ukrainian troops gain breathing room when jets cannot launch. This is strategic strangulation, denying takeoff fuel at scale. Now zoom out and see what this really means. This is not just one plant burning in the dark. A modern thermal station depends on high-tech gas turbines. Those turbines are expensive, specialized, and hard to replace. That is where Russia's nightmare truly begins. There is no spare turbine and no easy rebuild. No Siemens support, no GE support, no Alstom support. The myth of self-sufficiency goes quiet beside mangled metal. Gas turbines are among the world's most complex machines. They have thousands of parts built to micron precision. They spin under extreme heat at near-sonic speeds. Russia upgraded its grid in the early 2000s. Many plants used Siemens and GE turbine technology. After the invasion and sanctions, those firms exited Russia. Maintenance, software support, and spare parts were cut off. That is why these hits bite so deep. Russia cannot quickly restore what generates its own electricity. The Kremlin may look to China for replacement turbines. But compatibility becomes a trap, not a solution. You cannot just swap Siemens for a Chinese model. Dimensions differ, and interfaces often do not align. Making it fit can require rebuilding the plant from scratch. That can take years and cost billions of dollars. Russia is boxed in by technological isolation. The lights are fading, and the storm may be starting. Thanks for watching today, and support this channel if you can. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and never miss a new video. Like the video, comment below, and share it with others. Bye for now, and I will see you next time.